Moving to oneness. Nourishing curiosity. Embracing differences. Becoming one.
Children are so open with their energy field. They take in the whole landscape, and not just that, but also the beautiful beings that live within it, especially the fairies. That's important to know, because my guest has a huge smile every time the word fairy is mentioned, and children. So stay tuned what she brings for you. Hello, everyone. I'm Meilin, your host of the Moving to Oneness podcast. And please welcome with me my guest, Angela Legh. She is in New Mexico, in the Tao, in the mountains. And I was wondering, we both wear sweaters. As you all know, I'm in Germany and it's February. And we're solar temperatures. That's rare. So hello, dear Angela.
Hello. It's such a pleasure to come and talk to you again.
Yes, you were here on the Moving to Oneness podcast once before. So everyone, she was one of the earlier guests already, really believing also in my vision. And that's episode 60. So take a look. That must have been like 3 years ago. And
I know it
listen
was a
to
long
it.
time ago.
Yes. But at that time, we mainly spoke about what brought you to writing, because you really are a writer. And with your writing, you want to touch people's heart, give them support, but especially it goes back to children, so children can feel and be understood, that they get seen
Yes.
by adults. And this is something very unique, I think, about you. And that's
Also,
what you started writing that 3 years ago, your first book about the Bella Santini Chronicles came out, and I see there right behind you. So if you're on audio, do go jump over to the YouTube channel, Moving to Oneness, and take a look at the 3 books now. And I think you're writing now on the 4th book.
the 4th book is
In the
done.
series. Oh,
Yeah, I'm writing
tell us
on
more.
Well, the books kind of follow the main character, Bella, through a journey of self-discovery. And one of the things I was going to add when you were speaking earlier was that it's the parents to understand the children, but also for the children to understand themselves and have those self-inquiry questions and wonderings that help them to truly become who they're meant to be.
That they don't close up. I remember a long time ago, we were in the mountains, and there was a tablecloth of in the house where we stayed, and we were with the shamanic group there, and you could see that 2 siblings drew, and one was older and one was younger. Each had drawn on one side. And the important part, and it really showed a very important point, the younger one drew love in a way. She drew energy fields. There were no boundaries. The deer, the trees, and really the fields. She painted a lot of fields, energy fields, I would say. And that is important to know. When we're younger, we are this way. We have a very wide perception as children, and we sense so much more than most adults. We then close up, or were closed up, and didn't stay open because of our cultural and societal pressure, no?
Yeah, even things that parents who love their children, sometimes they say things that will close up the child, and
Yeah.
they don't intend to do that, but it's really important for parents to understand that their children are individual people, that they have a soul. When they're young, they're close to their soul. There's like no layers of societal expectations and parental and school expectation and all these things that kind of get in the way of being connected to your soul. So it's really pure, that
Yeah.
connection of a
Good.
young child.
And now we strive
And
to get to it. Mhm.
yeah, and really what my books are about is helping children to hang on to that purity and stay in, my books are very innocent. They are, they don't delve into darkness. There's conflict in them, but the conflict is dealt with through love. And so it basically is a primer for how to live in the energy of love.
I love that because we go back to that tablecloth. The older sibling, she had painted all the witches, but not the witches like is the original sense of a healer, bringing,
Right.
teaching about nutrition, the landscape, right? How it was, but about the dark side out of the Middle Ages, all the stories, and not stories, what really happened to many people. So that's
Yeah.
exactly this darkness. And even though it's cartoonish or made stories out of it, some were legends, but there is still this darkness or this trauma hanging with it. And I love that we have now more books to choose from, or parents have more books to choose from, children have more books to choose from that they can read and explore. And I love that you put that together and that you don't segregate things out, right? I think even the fairies do appear, and it's a way of teaching. Did the fairies give you hints also what to write? Or how did you get
Oh,
to write?
very much. Yeah. I would say that the books are channeled because I never sat down and drew up a plot line. I never sat down and thought, oh, what am I going to write today? I would be inspired by a scene that would show up in my mind, and I'd sit down and I'd write. And
Yeah.
so I remember when I first started reading something by Stephen King saying, to be a good author, you have to write for an hour every day. And I was, that doesn't feel good to me. And so I just kind of threw that out. But for me, it's really sit down and write when you are inspired to do so.
I think that's a whole way for us to learn again how to live our life, to
I think
act,
so.
right? Not just because when do we write? Because we're all multi-talented, right?
Yes,
When
we
do we
are.
work? When I think everything to get out of that rigidness. Again, I like that
Yeah.
tablecloth. It shows the rigidness against the fluidity,
Fluidity. Yeah.
the flexibility to the inflexibility. And I think that's you're also leading away with these books, bringing us back as humans, or early enough already, in being this fluid being,
Yes.
and that we can sense and know everything is connected to us, and we're connected with everything that exists.
I love that, Meilin. That is like the perfect advertisement for my books. Yes.
Yeah, because they're fun, and so many people, I think, wear this open and closed up, and especially in my generation, maybe a few decades
Oh,
even
yes.
down.
Mhm.
Only now it's so we can talk about spirituality differently, purity, light, awakening. It's now in everywhere to be found. But when we were children, it was not. Parents were even
Not.
watching out, right? That we didn't tell any stories no one could understand because maybe they couldn't see energy or feel energy, and
Yeah,
we ended
well,
up in the lully bin. They're
exactly.
afraid. They were afraid
Um,
about that, the parents.
yeah, it's, excuse me, the religious structures that we grew up under. It's like I grew up, my mom was a Catholic, I was raised in the Catholic Church, and there are structures in that church. But even some of the more open churches, there's still a lot of structures and a lot of patriarchal ideas. And I honestly believe that, at some point, the idea of the goddess was left out of religion and it became just the god. And then um, at least in the Catholic Church, the leadership became more and more patriarchal, and women were pushed out, pushed away, made to be sinners, made to be witches. And I think that, now we're in a time where we understand that the feminine, the energy of the feminine is nurturing and loving and good. And why would we want to shove that out?
Yeah, because it brings harmony and balance. So many young women now are attracted by the moon or listen to the moon much more again. And
Oh,
that is
absolutely.
important
Yes.
because it carries the feminine principle, not just in us women, but also in
Well,
men and
yes.
for our earth.
Yeah. And when you talk about harmony and balance, um, balancing the feminine and masculine energy that we all have, every single one of us is feminine and masculine. And some of the energies we express on a daily basis are either feminine or masculine, and learning to balance and, where do I bring in that nurturing and loving feminine presence, and where do I put on that I'm going to plow through this masculine presence. And I think for all of us, it's an individual journey of figuring out, how to, not necessarily how does it work in the world, but how does it feel to me?
Important.
Yeah.
How does it feel to you? While you were speaking, I was thinking, so your books you wrote, the main character is a girl.
Mhm.
Have you noticed or heard that also boys were reading it? Because normally, right, it's a girl story, but in
Right. That's a
fantasy,
girl's.
but it's really not so fantasy. If I even want to put it into
It's an
fantasy
action
books.
adventure story.
Yeah, genau. Action
Yeah.
adventure story. They all read now. Boys, men and women read
I
those.
think,
Are boys touched? That's really the question I wanted to.
yes.
Are they as touched by your stories, or the story that
I
is
think
running
so.
through your books?
One of my friends was reading the first book and the second book to her 11-year-old son, kind of as a bedtime story, which is something I entirely endorse. And she sent me an email. She said, he puts down his electronics. He puts down his gaming pad and he says, Mom, read me that book. And so I think, yes, boys can connect in. They may not connect with the main character, but there's the secondary main character, Mateus, who they might connect with. And there's Torbietto, which is a gargoyle brought to life. And he's quite the character. So he may also be something of a father figure for boys. This strong male lead who is all about loyalty and right.
Good to have also, especially for young men. Often they're not so present in the male roles. Yeah, kindergarten, schools,
Yeah.
there are not so many men in those professions supporting boys to grow up, younger ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is also, and going back to why he puts down the electronics. So your books bring in truth and purity. So in that channel, there's a lot of truth in them, and children can sense it. Maybe they cannot express it in words what it is, but they just know it. They have a knowingness, and that what you bring down and is part of the success of your books. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's your being. I think that's important. Everyone, Angela brings that through her being. That is so important for her or for you to live this way and to speak the truth. Your whole demeanor shows that the gentleness, the finesse. In German we have zart, Feinheit. That's coming out of you, and how important children are. And you took it even further now. You have a TV show,
Yeah.
Children's Lives, right? That you started last year. So
Yeah.
you have a bigger audience and can help even more children. I love that. Share that
Thank
vision
you.
a little bit that you have. How did you start it, and why is it important? Why is it for you, Angela, also so important
So
to
it kind
help
of started.
children's lives?
Yeah. Well, that's my soul's mission, is to
Yeah.
support kids. So how can I not? But it started with the books, because I realized that the young children, they would understand the angelic concepts that are in the books. But the parents, because they have so many layers of different, you did it wrong, expectations and all that things that causes us to crunch up inside, the parents might not understand as much. So within each book, I wrote a parent's guide that looked at the main themes in the book and gave parents a deeper understanding of those themes. And at some point in time, I realized that the books can help children understand who they are, but if they're raised in a household where they're constantly being told not to be who they are, then they're not supported in that. So I really needed to reach the parents to help the parents understand how they affect their child, even when they're trying, to be good. So one of the topics in the show Children's Lives Matter is on social media addiction. Another topic is on body image. And so many parents don't understand when they talk to their child and say things like, you don't want to eat that. They're sending a message to their child that the child is fat, or that it's even those seemingly innocent comments can affect the child. And so understanding that how we word our talk around food and eating with our kids would be more like, hey, we have these really delicious, healthy snacks. Do you want to try one? And rather than saying, don't eat that, you'll get fat, you say, we have this. Do you want to try it? And there is no message to the child that they are not meeting expectations. In this case, it would be a body shape expectation.
Yeah, we have to live it, right? When my son was born, it was very clear to me I have to live what
Oh,
I want
yes,
from him, right? I cannot tell him and
absolutely.
live something else. So that
That's a
helped
theme.
me in my life, helped me in life become more true to myself, because it was
Yes.
important for me to be that. Yeah, so I have to buy the healthy things and eat them in front of my child, and
And in
also
the social
listen and see
media,
how he eats, because every person is different. We have to
mhm,
really sense that even a young being is already a being and already knows how his bodies function. So they may not eat things that are not good for them already, and they know it, but the parent may be, oh, you have to eat it this way or that way. That we start listening even and watching how they function. I think that is very important. That's what I've
that is
learned also
very
and observed
important.
by other people.
Yeah. And also on the body image, so you talked a little bit about modeling behavior, which is probably the number one thing I would tell parents to do. Model the behavior you want your child to exhibit. On the social media show, we talk about how some parents try and set rules and guidelines about social media use for their kids while they're on social media. It's like, wait a minute. You're saying it's bad for them, but it's okay for you? And I say it's about screen time. So how much are you on the computer? How much are you on social media? How much are you watching the television? And if you're trying to tell your child that it's not good for them to spend many hours doing that, you need to look at yourself and say, how many hours am I spending?
Mhm. And you know what? Also, I learned, and many people to work through the trauma that happens when parents,
Yeah, yeah.
we're too tight on people. Um, but that we explain it. It's very important that they're already very, very smart. They're not they're not a being that is we have to create and help rise up. They're very aware. We just saw the beginning, right? We saw how
Yeah.
much children already understand, feel, sense, hear the landscape, see the stars, the connectivity, and act on it where we don't, right? They don't walk the
We
straight
question us.
lines. They follow the energy lines like the dogs, and we always
Yes.
pull them back. You have to walk on the path, but they know where they can get energy and feel better and healthier and more alive. Yeah, no, because they can understand. And going back to the social media, if you're telling them, see, I can do it a little different than you because my brain is finished, developed, or whatever. How it's
Mhm.
understood nowadays, how the brain
Yeah.
functions. So, but at least then they understand and share them so they can make their own concepts,
Yes.
right? That is
And
also, I think,
also,
important.
when you share the why you're asking your child, or telling, I don't want to say asking, you're telling your child to do something. When you share the why, then they have an understanding and they can buy into it better. And so, another tip for parents would be to talk with a child about, okay, so now we talked about this, you understand why. What are the consequences when you fail to follow this? And let the child set the consequences. Because then, when the time comes, and it probably will, where they fail to follow that whatever guideline, then you don't have a fight over the consequences. You just say, you said when you didn't do this that this X would happen. X is happening now. And the child can't really fight it because they're the one who chose that.
Yeah, it gives they get responsibility and respect. And I think that they see that they're respected, so that the action also counts, and that if choose even something that maybe the parent doesn't want, that the parent is okay and understands it, and doesn't
Yeah.
just use explaining to get their idea.
Well, and
Children
yeah,
are smart. They can sense what is behind. What is behind?
the energies underneath. Yeah, they can. And when, I don't know about you, but I was raised in the do as I say, not as I do time. And because I told you so, that was the only explanation I ever got. And those, I can think of my father telling me not to smoke while he smoked a cigarette. And of course, when I was in junior high school, I tried smoking. I didn't like it, so I didn't do it. But that do as I say, not as I do, not modeling the behavior that you want, it is almost a guarantee that they're gonna do it.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I was very lucky. I have two rebels as parents. The rebel, one from the US and from the East Bloc, the Russian parts of Germany at that time. And my mom escaped. My father didn't want to fit into the structure, or the religious structure he grew up. And so they were wildly open, and he went into a different country, and I think that laid a ground for me to explore myself, and I loved freedom, and they gave me a lot of freedom and to explore.
Beautiful.
And I also then, when I learned, was more going the shamanic route and learning much more, I really observed the Native American way. They really let their children explore and do, and they don't tell. Like in Germany, they tell you before things and what could happen. Don't put and don't this and don't that, because you could hurt
Right.
yourself. So a child can never sense how far can I go and not go. And maybe we need to watch animals a little bit more. How do they train their children? Where is it dangerous? It's not. And I think there's many things where children have lost nowadays because we are already too strict in so many ways to gauge, even all the way up to driving a car, to gauge certain things. And I wish that is coming back. But I see the young women, they're becoming more and more open, and the work you do, Angela, and others, does help. So on what channel can people find you, and when is your show able to be seen?
Yeah, it's on demand, so it can be watched anytime. You don't have to worry about time zones, which is good. And it's on e360tv.com. There's a lot of shows on E360 TV. So as you pull up the website, scroll down, when you see the line of silver boxes, that's Thriving Women Network, and my show is part of that network. So you can find my show in that line of silver boxes.
Oh, that's a good place to be. So for women, mothers that go there, they can find many other things.
Absolutely.
Well,
there are
right?
a lot of other shows
to support them. Because
yeah.
I remember there was an interesting thing about children. So when I saw men deal different with children, and us women, we observe already too much, or still what other women think about us. So this is something when we can heal through our things, and I think from the healing side, it's very important that we do this self-discovery and solve and dissolve these traumas where we have been impacted, so we don't hand it on to a child. So this is another step that I think is so important. And on the playgrounds, I could feel the mothers were much more stricter, and because they were always scared what were other mothers thinking about them. And I
Oh,
think when you would go Saturdays to the playground, they're mainly men then were there.
mm,
And they didn't have that rule, and you could see that the children were exploring much more things and testing out a little bit more dangerous things. But that's important because you have to, how far can I go and learn? Because I think children need to go further than their parents, right? Because
agree.
times change. They have to
Yeah.
go on. I think Goethe already wrote about that. Sturm und Drang. They have to try new things and
Forge
try
their
that the
path.
parents
Yeah.
didn't do. And we have to give them the loose reins so that they can even explore that.
There's on my website, I talk about different kinds of parenting. And the only kind of parenting that has really good outcomes for the children is what's called authoritarian, not authoritative. And authoritarian means you have a high level of nurturing. That child knows that they're loved, and you have a high level of boundaries. So you're teaching your child that there are boundaries to keep them safe and or to make the household run the way it needs to run, or boundaries for interacting with people. And when you do that, then the child has room to explore. They know that there are structures around them to keep them safe. So that allows them the freedom to explore. In contrast, the permissive style, where there are no boundaries, the child is unsure of themselves. They feel like they don't know what's okay and what's not okay. So they keep pushing boundaries, keep, pushing. And there's never any consequences, never any pushback. That doesn't raise children to prepare for what they deal with in the world, because that child then goes to college or starts a job, and now there's pushback and they don't even know how to deal with that. So it's really important to teach boundaries and to be really nurturing to your child.
Yeah. So what tips do the fairies provide? If you would say, now in the book you were free to channel them through, are you able to speak that also out when you are on your TV show? Or you also, that's really important. She's also a columnist for the Los Angeles Tribune, and we'll talk about the last article she wrote last week. Yeah, but how free can you bring that into the world? Because what I learned from the fairies, that they want us adults to play more, the children to play more.
I was just gonna say that.
Okay.
Yes. So Queen Tatiana, who is Bella's mother in the books, she would say, let go and be more playful. Understand that playfulness is an aspect of love, and that when you bring playfulness, you bring joy. And joy is the energy that this world needs. The more joy, the more people love each other. And the more people love each other, the better the world is. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Queen. Forgot her name already. Didn't read the book, but I forgot. I'm not so good in remembering. I can feel the energy though, and the wisdom and the truthfulness and the purity in her words. Yes, it's so important. The joyfulness to bring that in, and if a parent doesn't have it,
Well,
it's
it's kind of
important the
being
role
out
to
of
get that back in us to learn from our children. So this is also many forget we can learn so much from our children if we keep our
absolutely.
eyes open and try to understand them and try to. That will be fun.
And one of the comments I've received on my books from, people over 40 is that it really connects them back to their inner child, to that spark of innocence within them. And I think, you don't have to have a child to be helped by my books.
Yeah, you can read them there because they're also like adult books. You can read. They're fun to read. They're light. Yeah,
They're
and
light. Yeah.
there's another important thing. Times are changing now, right? The cosmos is working with us, the galaxy, the
Oh,
whole
yes.
energies, things are
Everything's
speeding up.
changing.
And the material world that we live here on this planet has been very, very dense when we grew up, and it's much more less dense. Not much more, I didn't write English,
Yes.
but anyway, it's less. It's
Every
less
day it's a little
dense.
less dense.
Yeah, and it speeds up. We can feel it already in now the speed of 2025. And that's what leads to the other topic I told people about, that you are a columnist and that you wrote about a beautiful, supporting, heartfelt article about the fire and how people feel that have experienced a fire and a devastating fire where they lose everything.
Yeah.
And share that a little bit because it's important. How do you feel? You experienced it yourself many years back, but how do you bring your feelings into writing that they support others? Okay.
Well, yes, I did lose everything in a wildfire in 2017.
Mhm.
And when the Los Angeles wildfire happened just in the last month, I remember re-experiencing the feelings. I know what I went through, and it may be different from what other people went through, but I can speak to what I went through. And so that was the premise of this article. Look, you're going to experience a lot of different feelings, and these may be some of them. And don't beat yourself up. This is a hard thing. It's almost a portal that you're going through. Your life will be different after, and your soul is guiding you into whatever is coming next. So just trust and give yourself grace.
Yeah, grace. That's a beautiful word. And feeling emotion, you can go into it, energy. And while you were speaking, I mean, children don't read newspapers in the article, but could you do also something small? There were many children that experienced the fire, right? Could you do a short, I don't know, it just comes, can you write a children's piece that parents could read? I would do that, that could read out of the newspaper to them, maybe.
Child.
So, yeah, because you have this connection. They experience their parents in panic. They never experienced their parents like this. They may have lost the surrounding or animals they may have lost. They
may even have to be moved somewhere else. When I was 4, my house burned down.
Oh.
Yeah. And my sister and I were sent off to live with to us, they were strangers. To my father, they were friends, but Yes, I can speak to that too, to what, what the child is experiencing. One of the things that struck me when my house burned down was that my adult children, they didn't have a home anymore. There's something about,
Ooh.
keeping your boxes of stuff at your parents' house or visiting your parents' house on holiday. And if it's not the house that they grew up in, and that's, tragically taken away, it it it's a loss. And so I was struck by the loss my children went through at the same time I went through this huge loss. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the double and triple that builds up, and that we carry as mothers or parents, fathers,
Oh
right?
yeah.
That never goes away, and it's a
Yeah.
little, but it can be dissolved. And I think the written word, like you do with your writing, has the power to do that, to dissolve, to
Absolutely.
release trauma also. Because you get new perspectives. It builds up possibility, and you do that. So do write something for children, and
Thank
that
you.
they
I
can
will.
also explore that themselves, and then they have a conversation they can hold with the adults or with their parents in a different way, or even then the parent can understand maybe what a child goes through if they have not. Well, you have done two
I know.
explored them also as a child. So that will be really supporting. That will be a treasure for
Thank
children.
you. I will do it, and thank you for the idea.
Thank you. Yeah. So people will probably want to learn more about you, your books, your advice you give parents. Do also children reach out to you, like teenagers? That's what.
I have not had children reach out to me, but
Uh-huh.
I'm looking forward to when they do.
See, so if there's a teenager listening, or you have teenagers or younger children, reach out to Angela. And there's so much to learn about her, and she has so much more wisdom than we are able even to squeeze into this episode. Go and listen again to episode 60. We speak about different things, and she has so much more to give. And keep on going, because you're touching many children, and we see the impact, maybe not now, but we'll see it in a decade, and especially we'll
Yes,
see it in
we
2
will.
decades. And the world is moving into a total different direction, and that is it's like we're giving them a suitcase to create that new
A
world
toolbox.
that we're
Yeah.
moving at. Yeah, exactly. You're giving it. But also it's an embodied, right? The words in text, we're able to embody what we read, and it's not to be underestimated, how we
It's so,
use that
yeah.
into and act on it.
I have often said that, and I hope no psychologists kind of get offended by this, but I have often said that, the problem with psychology is you just talk about the problem, and you talk and you talk and you talk. And over time, you may shift your perspective, but it takes a long time. Whereas even through the written word, the perspectives, the energy starts moving, and the perspectives shift, and you see something in a new way. And then all of a sudden, that thing that really bothered you doesn't have the same energy. And so you're becoming free from it. And yeah, it's like I used to say that my books worked on the energy, not on the talking about it.
Yeah, that's so true. It even the energy that's in between the letters or the words, and even if it's on paper, especially children, they dive into
Right.
text. They're learning, right? They're learning more and more about that, how children do things.
Well, and the difference between a book that is a teaching book. So a self-help book, you do this and you'll get that. That is not immersive. But if you put the same understandings and perspectives in a story, then all of a sudden the child sees themselves in the story and it's immersive. And so the learnings are then really embodied through that.
It's a wonderful way, but that's why I love to read too. It's the same thing is happening now to me. I use a fantasy book I'm reading, but it's showing me possibilities I had forgotten.
Yes.
I knew him, 30 years ago, and he said, "Oh my God!" And how can I build? And how it gives me also again an urge to learn something special again or something new. So it's a driver. It's also it makes you curious. What is out there? What else can I do? Because I believe even in many, especially okay, from adults we say fantasy books.
I love
There
fantasy.
is so much channeled information in the writers as well, because it didn't fit into a normal genre. We had to go in a way of the fairy tale. Well, that's the better word. In the way of what we call a fairy tale, so it can stay
Right.
open.
It's not
Yeah.
in that fairy tale structure,
Mhm.
because that fairy tale structure was very patriarchal and very, the evil witch kind of image that was given to fairies even. And
Yeah.
that's not who they are. They are
No, not at all.
love. Fairies are nothing but love, and they're fun and playful, but they are love. And
Great
so
healers. Fantastic healers.
very
Speed.
yes, very
They
much
heal a lot, yeah.
yeah. So people
Oh,
can find me on my website, Angela Legh, LEGH.com.
oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, so do reach out, everyone, to Angela. Read her articles in the Los Angeles Tribune, watch her Children Lives Matter TV. I'll write it down so you have it
All
all
of those
written.
links are on my website, so it's
Yeah,
easy.
as well. Yeah, genau. And also in the show notes. So thank you very much again, Angela, and for your wisdom, and especially the last sentence was so beautiful. But maybe I have one more sentence for the audience, and maybe that child or the inner child that is listening as well.
So every adult has an inner child, and a lot of people think about their wounded inner child. But what if your inner child is innocence and purity and light, and you just had to hide that away because of the wounding you received as a child? Your inner child is fun, is light, and is love. And that is an aspect of who you are. The more you tap into that pure inner child, the happier you become.
Oh, so beautiful. I'm not going to add anything to this. I just say yes, yes, yes. So everyone, shine your light. Angela, thank you very much for being here again, sharing your precious time with us. Thank you for writing. Thank you for making the TV and helping so many children and our inner child and parents. I really appreciate that. That's such an important work. And everyone out there, play around, be the joyful you, and have fun. I'm Meilin, your host of the Moving to Oneness podcast. Goodbye.
Thank you, Meilin.